In theaters this week, a bigger, more aquafied Aquaman, an updated yet nostalgic take on the color purple, plus an animated movie all about ducks, and a live-action movie all about wrestlers. It's all coming up this week on Big Ticket.
True king builds bridges, right? True king builds bridges.
Crashing into theaters is the long-awaited sequel, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. After a 5-year wait since the first one came back in 2018, this sequel sees the return of James Wan as director and Jason Momoa as the star, a duo that already put forth a billion-dollar-making DC bright spot. Speaking of DC, this film is marking the end of an era, which is the DCEU as we knew it. With new bosses taking over in 2022, the likes of Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck are no more, and a new continuity plan is being put into place. And while we probably won't see Affleck or Cavill in this film, it is the final DCEU installment, and it is okay if you want to cry a little. By the way, if a merman cries in the ocean, do we really see his tears? And this time around, the aforementioned star of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Momoa, had plenty more involvement behind the scenes, helping come up with the initial story that James Wan and writer David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick then ran with. But don't just take my word for it. Here's Aquaman himself breaking down one of his big story pitches.
After the first one, I wanted to, I wrote an idea and pitched it to them, because I think it's beautiful to be like this half man, half superhero, or half Atlantean who doesn't want to be king, but is destined to be king, and at the same time falls in love with a woman, and have a baby while you're doing all at the same time. And then I just liked that complexity of it, and just being humbled by taking advice from my father, like just how I was raised with a single parent.
Yeah.
And so there was just a lot of things I wanted to dive into for the character. You
can check out our full interview with the folks from Aquaman at Fandango.com.
Our teacher taught us about a place called Africa. She say our mamas come from Queens over there. That means that we royalty.
Another one in theaters this week is the musical drama The Color Purple. This one is based on the famous novel and Broadway musical that followed, both of which have been highly acclaimed and staples of pop culture for decades. With that said, this film also has various connections to the first film adaptation that came out in 1985 that was directed by Steven Spielberg. This time around, he and Quincy Jones serve as producers alongside the stage musical's producers, which includes Oprah Winfrey, who of course starred in that 85 film. Trust me, it all tracks. This time around, the film's cast is led by star Taraji P. Henson, who's being joined by names like Corey Hawkins and Halle Bailey, plus some actors from the stage musical, including American Idol winner Fantasia Barrino in her film debut.
Here we go! Tail for the torsion!
Check!
Wing deployment!
Check!
Let's fly!
The sun is shining through.
Opening wide in theaters is Migration from the same people that brought you The Minions. This animated comedy has a loaded voice cast that includes Kumail Nanjiani, Awkwafina, Elizabeth Banks, and Keegan-Michael Key. Oh yeah, and don't forget Danny DeVito. And while many of your favorite animated movies have featured all kinds of animals through the years, none of them are all about ducks. Or in this case, a family of mallards trying to convince their overprotective dad to migrate from New England to Jamaica. Geez, Dad. Migration was written by Mike White, whose name might sound familiar as the creator and writer of the hit HBO series The White Lotus. And while an animated family movie might not have that much in common with an adult dark comedy, White has also written for more family-friendly projects like The Emoji Movie and School of Rock. Yeah, he's super talented.
Harry, I want you to join your brothers in the ring.
Yes, sir. I love that.
Woo! Now, we all know Carrie's my favorite, then Kev, then David, then Mike. But the rankings can always change.
And finally in theaters this week is A24's The Iron Claw. This biographical sports flick is based on the life of pro wrestler Kevin Von Erich and the wrestling dynasty that was the Von Erich family, who were huge, literally and figuratively, in the 80s. It features Zac Efron in the role of Kevin, and the dude completely transformed himself for the role. Incredibly impressive. And he's joined by people like Jeremy Allen White, Maura Tierney, and Lily James, among others. The Iron Claw is also quite strong song, see what I did there, Behind the Camera. It was written, produced, and directed by Sean Durkin, and while you may not know the name, after he got his start in short films and music videos, his two other feature films, Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, and The Nest, are both critically acclaimed. Well, that's it for this week's Big Ticket, a booming list for a big time of year. And don't forget, you can get your tickets to all 4 of these right now at Fandango.com. Thanks for watching Fandango's Big Ticket. See you next week.